Well, hey there, and welcome to Viewpoint Christian Academy, where we've been empowering parents to provide their children with a Christian education since 1984, doing it through a biblical, individualized, and mastery-based program. I'm Dr. Adam Rondeau. It's time for devotions again this week. In this devotion, we're going to talk about what a difference a few chapters can make. Stay tuned. So what a difference a few chapters can make. And by this, I'm referring to something that I recently read in my devotions with my wife. And that's found in the book of Exodus. Exodus is a really cool book. We've got the beginning of Exodus where God calls Moses and helps lead the people out of bondage. And now they're wandering around in the wilderness. They come to the mountain of God. And in Exodus chapter 20, very famous and popular passage, God gives the people of Israel the 10 Commandments. You know, those 10 Commandments, they're powerful, they're amazing, and they're really cool. And here we have the 10 Commandments, and the people all hear the 10 Commandments, and God gives, the first one, no other gods before me. The second one, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images, no idols, all that kind of good stuff. Well, you jump over to chapter 24. In chapter 24, verses 3 through 7, Moses speaks to all the people and tells them this is what God says, and all the people reply back to Moses and they say, all the words that the Lord has said, we will do. So they say it twice, not just once, but the fact they say it twice in verse 3 and in verse 7. But fast forward a little bit to Exodus chapter 32. Because in Exodus chapter 32, here's what happens. After all of this, God gives the 10 Commandments. Moses tells them the words. Then Moses goes up to the top of the mountain to be with God. And he's there for 40 days, right? For 40 days, there he is up at the top of the mountain, communing with God. God carves the 10 Commandments on 2 tablets of stone, gives them to Moses, and all of this happens. And then at the end of that time, God tells him, go down to the people. Go back down because they've committed a great sin. Well, what had happened? Moses had been up in the mountain for so long, the people were like, well, Moses is gone. I bet you he's dead. He's not coming back. So they go to Aaron, Moses' brother, and say, look, Moses is gone. We don't know what's happening. So here's what we want you to do. We want you to make us a God, just like we saw in Egypt. We want a God that we can see, that we can follow, that can lead us around. And in Exodus chapter 32, we read that Moses makes a golden calf, right? And then Aaron makes a golden calf at the behest of the people. Then Moses comes down from the mountain and he sees this and he gets so angry he breaks the tablet of stone and he rebukes the people and he breaks up that golden calf and turns it into powder, throws it in the water, and there were some people, he says, you know what, make your decision. Some people said, no, we're going to serve God. Some people said, no, we're not. And then it just kind of got crazy. But look at what happened. We went from Exodus chapter 24, where the people said, we'll obey all the commandments, including not making any idols, to Exodus chapter 32, where so many of them had just kind of flipped and changed their mind. It's what we call, in the Bible, there's a term for it, found in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 8. It's called double-mindedness, where you can't make up your mind whether you're going to serve God or you're not going to serve God. Well, you're serving God this week, but next week, maybe not. On Sundays, you're good, but Mondays, All right, when you're 13, oh yeah, but then when you're 16, It's called double-mindedness. It's not following through with your commitment. Now, there was a famous evangelist named Gypsy Smith, very famous evangelist, and he would preach the gospel and led many people to Christ. And Gypsy Smith once encountered a man after one of his meetings, and he said to him, sir, are you a Christian? And the man said, oh, yes. He said, well, how long have you been a Christian? And the man said, 28 years, off and on. And Gypsy Smith replied back, well, I guess more off than on. Why? Because if you're saying I'm on again, off again with God, that's a problem. That's called double-mindedness. God wants you to be stable, and he wants you to be committed in your relationship to him, in your commitment to him. The book of Revelation, chapter 3, verses 15 and 16, is addressing a particular church called the Church of Laodicea. And there's a really great passage in there that's very common. And in verses 15 and 16, it says something to this effect, that Jesus says, look, I know your works, that you're neither hot nor cold. So then because you are lukewarm, I'm going to vomit you out or spit you out of my mouth. Well, let me just take this illustration. It's a very powerful illustration. Let me just take it a little bit more practical and relevant for you. There's a lot of great context and background to this, and I would highly encourage you to check it out. But I like my ice cream cold and my coffee hot. I don't want my ice cream hot, and I don't want my coffee cold. I know some people like it that way, but I don't. I want my coffee hot and my ice cream cold. If they're not, then it's like, ugh, no thank you. If they're just lukewarm right in the middle, yeah, no, I don't want soupy ice cream, and I don't want lukewarm coffee, because that's like, ugh, something about that. It just makes me want to drink it and go, spit it out. And that's the way it is with God when it comes to your commitment to Him. God wants you either in or out. He doesn't want you halfway in. He doesn't want you in one day and out the next day. The Bible tells us that you cannot serve two masters. You can't have it both ways in this Christian walk. It's an exclusive thing. You got to make up your mind and commit to it. The Bible tells us in Joshua chapter 24, verse 15. Joshua looks at the people and he says, choose you this day whom you will serve. Whether the gods on the other side of the flood that your father served, or the Amorites in whose land you dwell, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Notice, he says, choose you this day. It's like you put something in the ground. It's like putting a marker in the ground and saying, okay, from this point on. But every day, you got to kind of consciously reaffirm that and make that commitment again. It's not on again, off again. It's continually, constantly pressing forward. Let me encourage you with this today. If you're on again, off again with God, if you're just up and down feeling emotional about your commitment and your relationship to God, commit in your mind right now to say, you know what, from this point on, and write it down on your calendar, put it in your Google Calendar, and set a reminder every year so that it comes back up and you say, okay, at this point, I made a commitment to Jesus. I made a commitment to God that no matter what happens, I'm going to follow and serve Him. Put that line in the sand, or go back and remember the time. This is where I first committed my life to Christ. And use that marker, use that as a memorial to remind yourself that I have made my decision. I am taking my stand. The line, I'm quoting a song here, the line was drawn in the sand, and I will not be ashamed, and I will not change, and I will not go back. I'm going forward with Jesus. Let me encourage you with that today, that you would realize that you are going forward with Jesus, that you have committed and you are there. You're not going to be double-minded. What a difference a few chapters can make. Well, in our lives, sometimes what a difference a day makes, what a difference a week, what a difference a few years makes. But it shouldn't. Our commitment to Christ should not change. God bless you. I hope you have a great day today.